Hi everyone, Mature Simmer here. So almost repeated yesterday by getting in and then starting up and forgetting to get some recording going on. But luckily, had my wits about me. I've actually double checked just to be sure, and things are recording. Wow, that's impressive. I don't know that I've seen that. I'm not sure what that is. I mean, it clearly looks like purple painted grass, but don't know why. If it's always been there, I haven't seen it in 20 years. So, we've got our hops that we planted yesterday sprouting on the field. And today I'm going to go ahead and get the spraying done. And then we'll kind of talk about some of the news based on what was at the end of last episode. The announcement that the server will be moving to Shellbrook. Just a question of not quite sure when, but I submitted our request to do that early this morning, about 6 hours ago. And this is a planter. Maybe I'm too tired to play, but we'll see. Where's the sprayer? Oh, the sprayer's where I was, so oh well. Let's go back around. So you're getting a really nice tour of the shed this morning. This is the west side. We're going to go back over to the east side. And we're going to grab this thing with long arms folded up. That is our sprayer. Just get back to basics. Make sure that maybe if I talk myself through the steps, I'll not make stupid errors. Alright. So now we can connect everything up. We are full, as I somewhat expected. I wasn't entirely sure, because sometimes I'm not always doing what I should at the end. I'm kind of avoiding that field for whatever reason, but just habit of, hey, I don't want to mess up crops. I always forget that this is kind of downhill and therefore a little bit dangerous for just continuing to roll after I've lined up. Alright, not a bad roll after all that, so let me get going. So we'll get these hops sprayed. And so yeah, I had mentioned on yesterday's video, obviously, that I had forgotten to record the planting of this field because I just kind of was excited to get on and just forgot to get things going. I mean, there's no excuse other than just sheer error on my part and forgetting to do what I needed to do to capture footage. So, there was definitely a lot of information, well, a lot of talking, let's say that, because I guess people might debate whether it was information or not, or if it was just me repeating the same thing over and over, which, is perhaps what this will be as well, because there's only so much to say at this point, because there's only so much that we know. But obviously, the difference between now and then was a lot of what I talked about yesterday was we're considering this speculation, and then obviously kind of acting like someone who doesn't want to let you know the sex of your baby by, kind of, I know something you don't know, but I don't want to share too much in case something doesn't quite work out the way it's planned. So at least, we don't have that going on. Just forgot to get my GPS going, but now we're all set here. So we'll kind of do the same thing where I did this headland down here, and then I did one up up top, and then we just filled in the blanks. So I'm gonna do the same thing, and that should then get us a field that is weed free to get harvested. So yeah, what was occurring was in the break, which I took a longer break just because that's how it worked out. Basically, you know, I knew I was going to plant a field. Initially, I was, you know, likely going to do some cereal crops, but by the time I got in here, the window had passed on the crop calendar to be able to plant anything in the cereal crop family. So I had early summer and had to look at the chart for that, and this is how we ended up where we were at. But during that process, away from this particular game series, I was doing a lot of things on FS22, including a lot of maps and looking at new maps. So if you've been on the channel and kept up with things, you've seen basically I posted a series of map tours, and a couple of those maps caught my attention because they were 4X, which was really one of our challenges in finding something that we felt as a group of farm managers that we would enjoy playing on FSN. And then having done a quick tour on them, and in some cases, you know, maybe even trying a few things out. So I spent, you know, a good amount of time on them, and an hour or two in a lot of cases. Got a good feel for, yeah, this could be workable. Now I will say, you know, both of the maps that were in consideration, and at this point, NF Marsh was one, and then Shellbrook, where we are going, is another. And again, I can explain some of the details behind what happened that, you know, caused us to go with that. And it's nothing super exciting, nothing super fascinating. It's just the fact that it just made more sense. So to not digress from the story and jump around, I'll just keep going with what I was doing. So yeah, so after I had done those tours, I reached out to the group here and said, hey, you know, I've finally come across what I think are a few maps, you know, a couple maps that might be worthwhile. Do you guys have any interest in either of them? Because then I can, you know, go ahead and figure out what we need to do to submit things for approval and maybe begin the process of finally getting us over to FS22. Now at that point, my assumption was it was going to take some time, because, you know, what I was thinking in my head, and I didn't know the details, so part of what occurred then a few days ago was I posted on the Discord channel for FSN, hey, how do you go about submitting a map for consideration to be used in FSN? And I was told, well, there's a form you fill out. You basically put it in what is called the bale barn in the website, and what that is a location where you can look at mods and vote for them for consideration. And I just don't want to run off the edge here. Did the same thing yesterday in the video you didn't see, so I'll circle around and then circle up and then go down this side, and then we'll again start kind of coming up. But I want to make sure I get far enough over that I cover the field, but obviously I don't want to overlap too much, because as it is, it's going to be a spray that is going to be mainly redundant anyway. But this will be good, and then I won't not catch a portion of the field. And we're seeing some weeds getting knocked out here, so we definitely, looks like we got a pretty big crop here in the center, right where the tractor is, so you'll see them turn into gray stumps. There they are. Always a great sign, knowing that we're taking care of our field. But yeah, so I'd been told do that. Part of the rules in doing that are, please check the bale barn area and make sure that somebody hasn't already submitted your mod, because obviously I'm sure they'd rather not have to keep checking for us and then potentially having multiples out there, and then someone's voting for this version of that and that version, and then the votes are diluted because there's more than one instance of that mod out there. So basically with NF March, I found it had already been submitted. So I voted actually quite a few times, probably 10 or 15 times, like, all right, that'll get this going in for the process of approval. And then I returned to the Discord channel and said, okay, I'm good there. The one's out there already, but this other one I want to look at, Shellbrook, is actually on the author's Facebook page only. It's not somewhere where I can link easily to a URL that the operations team can get to, so the form doesn't seem to deal with that, because it basically just asks you for a link of where you can get the map. And I just want to make sure I was doing it right. I mean, I could provide a link to the Facebook page, but then they'd have to look within the Facebook page and so forth to find where the actual file is, and a little bit more work to do it. And I just wanted to make sure I was set up for success. And so the same person was nice enough to give me a kind poke in the eye and basically say, hey, on the announcements channel of our Discord server, if you remember, there's and the wording was exactly this, that mandatory reading, which is true. We're supposed to read the announcements because that's where key things are put. Come on, I should be able to get past this poll. I'm just barely hung up on it, but anyway, I can't. And I had read it, but basically, to kind of make the story short on that, there's 2 maps that were being released to be allowed to be requested that had already gone through the approval cycle, and then the next step of the cycle to get a map in FSN is then the operations team needs to work with the map and basically edit it so that it's usable in FSN, because once again, maps need to be equal from a playability standpoint so that there isn't some inherent advantage for a given map, that if people are playing on it, they can make 6 times the money in the same amount of time that someone could on another map. So that's where it's kind of stripped down to basics. And in the case of Shellbrook, if you've looked at it, there are 3 large potential starting farms that have just tons of silos, sheds. They're basically set up with items. And just like if this field here, 30, was a starting farm on SENECA, and I don't know that it is, they clear out those buildings. And so, like, when I inherited this, I need to remember, I go down, I saw those weeds there, and I'm confused, like, I just went up that way, but that's right, I moved over a row, and I actually need to run that row in GPS to catch the edge that I didn't get when I went down. So I'm going to just go right back down before I forget to do that in the end in my discussions with you. So, they'll clear out things so that, there was probably dozens of silos on the map. Similarly, what's unique to FS22, I'm not sure, like, there's productions across the north end of the map in the town of Shellbrook that are all existing. I don't know if those will be there just unowned, and then we can go through the process that FSN has set up to work with those, which, you know, involves permitting and so forth to purchase productions if you want to do that. Or if part of purchasing the productions still is we've got to pay for them to get built in the game, you know, which might just be the normal, pay the $50,000 or $80,000 depending on what the production is, that you would in single player, and you know, and then you have a permit to continue running it going forward, or how that will work. So that's going to be something new that we'll all kind of find out together once I get to that point, because obviously, you know, I'll have to see how things exist, and then, you know, they'd have to put things on the map that are, once again, unique but common to all FSN maps, which is the custom silo, namely the shop, you know, the FSN equipment, and all those type of things, and, you know, obviously get the farm slots ready, and so on and so forth. So if we were to get a map through the normal approval process, what I was expecting to happen was, okay, I've got to get it posted, which might take some time. I've got to get enough people to vote for it, which might or might not happen, and could certainly take some time. You know, when they finally review, because it's not like it's, hey, every week we pull off the mods that are leading and we start incorporating those into FSN. That's just really so to get things to rise to the top, so the operations team knows what to even consider, and they may still come back and say, yeah, this really isn't workable in FSN because of this, and it would make it impossible for us to tweak it and so forth. So even with equipment, just like they, you know, would change the size of trailers, as we've talked about in the past, from what they are in single player to conform with how FSN functions. You know, there's also times that maps would just be deemed not really workable. Then once you have that and it's approved, then you're waiting for the operations team to get the map ready for what I just talked about. And so, as you might imagine, you know, each of those steps could take weeks or perhaps even months per step, and, you know, we'd be waiting. So I was under the impression a few days ago that if this is even possible, to get one of these two maps considered, and because I knew, you know, there was a possibility of it being a no, that's why I was happy that I had two candidates, because I'm like, well, you know, hopefully, you know, I got two shots to get through things. But then when the other FSN member kindly pointed out to me that I had missed the fact that Shellbrook has already been announced, that kind of made the decision. So that's what I pointed back to the team and said, hey, look, you know, and in the course of my discussions, I've learned that, you know, when I looked at that post, because I had read it, even though, you know, as they said, it's mandatory reading, but the issue was, when I had read it, I hadn't actually discovered Shellbrook for myself yet, as a map. And so when I would have read that name, it would have meant really nothing to me other than, okay, this is a map, and at some point I want to take a look at it, because there's another map, I think it's Swedish landscape or something like that, that I still haven't seen and haven't come across, and honestly I didn't go search for it. But my plan was, at some point, all right, I'll go look, and then, you know, we'll see if these work. But I basically, through my own efforts, got ahead of that and realized I like this map, but then my brain didn't connect, hey, this thing you read a couple days ago, like, this map's already in process. So it took someone, like I said, giving me the proverbial poke in the eye of, hey, pay attention, this is already happening, to let me know that one of the maps had already gone through the process that I was concerned would take several weeks or several months. And you know how it is when you want to do something at that point, like, you know, it's hard to be patient. you're finally feeling like there's light at the end of the tunnel, where we are coming up, on 90 days since the release of the game, and we had no idea. Would we be waiting 2 weeks for a map when the game was released in November, or would we be waiting 2 months or 2 years? And we knew it was probably unlikely to be 2 years, but certainly, obviously, 2 months has proven out to be viable. So that is how we ended up deciding on Shellbrook, because basically it's ready to go, and NF Marsh is still being considered, and it's possible, like some folks do in the community, is we'll decide there's things we don't like about Shellbrook eventually, and hey, and maybe NF Marsh gets approved, and we're like, yeah, let's move over there. You can do map swaps, you just can't do them. Basically, the rule in FSN is you have to be on your server for 90 days. And so certainly, as you guys know, just even the part of Misty Hills I've been sharing with you guys, we're coming up on, or actually we've already passed 90 days just doing that. And as I told you in the first episode, I've been on this server for many in-game years before that, so it's been close to like 9 months in real life that I've spent on the farm here. So we are well past 90 days. But in the future, like once we get on that server, the clock starts again, and if somehow we're unhappy with that map and collectively decide we want to change, we could do another map swap to something else after being on a map for 90 days, which basically would be, like 9 or 10 in-game years. And, well, maybe a little bit like, because I guess 10 in-game years would technically be 120 days. So, but many years, over 5. So between 5 and 10 years, let's just say that, so that I don't have to do math in my head while I'm a little bit tired. So, so that's how we've ended up on selecting Shellbrook. The other thing that changed is there was one FM, because a couple of them are a little bit less active lately, just because they've gotten super busy in real life. But before I posted the request yesterday, and I didn't share this on the video because I just wanted to, keep it short, and I knew I'd have time, like I do now, to talk about it. We did get unanimous consent of all the FMs that are working at the time. Initially, when I was planting yesterday, I'd only heard from a few people. It was enough to be a majority, but it wasn't everyone. And so obviously my preference was to at least let everyone be heard, and then if somehow we didn't have a unanimous vote, which in this case we did, everybody said, yeah, let's give it a shot. They either looked at it, or some of them simply took it from the point of, hey, I like playing with you guys, I'd like to stay on a server with you guys. So if the rest of you are happy with it, yeah, I'm comfortable moving along with you based on that, because I'd rather, play with you guys. So that is how we are where we are, and awaiting a response for a request. So typically, any kind of ticket submitted in FSN, the expectation is 24 to 72 hours is the normal response window. So basically, if you don't hear anything after 72 hours, you can at that point kind of go back to your ticket, and or make a comment somewhere, hey, someone hasn't responded to me yet, and hopefully get someone to see it. So we're in that window at this point where we're not even close to 24 hours. We're literally about 6 hours away from it being posted. So we're gonna wait through today for sure. And so I've never done a map change. I've never actually moved servers on FSN. Like when I became a farm manager, I took this over. I took this server over as mayor, the sponsor for it, and I've been on here happily ever since, which was pretty much my expectation. I mean, that's what I was looking for. There are folks who will jump from map to map, because aside from the fact that you need to be 90 days to swap, there's also time periods, and I think it's similar, where you need to be on your existing farm for 90 days before you can request to be moved. But that's different than a map swap, in that you're just ceasing to be farm manager on one server, and you've applied and been agreed and accepted because there's a farm slot available and so forth on another map, and you're just moving there. So someone perhaps moving from Wild West to hilly Seneca, like some folks have done who are here, or moving from European map to hilly Seneca. But you get the deal. So some people do that because they're like, yeah, I got bored with the map I'm on, I want to change. Part of what I would say is the greatness of the Seneca map is we've all been on here for a long time and loved it. Our hope is, at least my hope is, that will be the same thing on Shellbrook, that we'll move there and we'll never look back, and that'll be our FS22 map for real life years. But again, that is a long time. And to me, a year is a lot different than 90 days. So, I think I'd be okay in my mental checklist of, all right, I've been on Shellbrook for a year. There's now 10 other maps that are available in FSN, and I'd like to consider one of them and move to one of them. And again, the discussion would occur with the folks on the server about, are we doing this as a map swap? Do we all want to do this, or are there people who'd like to continue on the server with their Shellbrook farms and I instead go somewhere else? And if I did that, obviously that comes into play of, is that a server that needs a sponsor? Or if not, am I just going on as an FM and stopping sponsorship? Maybe forever, maybe for a while. Lots of choices, but now we're just talking a bunch of hypotheticals that could take us down all kinds of rabbit holes. And since we're coming up to the end of the field here, I don't want to belabor the point too much. But the only reason it kind of comes up is, there are things that I would say personally, I can only speak for myself, that caused me a bit of concern about how I'll take to it. Again, the main one right now is I have a lot less time to play. Shellbrook Farms, the fields are very large. It's a Canadian map, 4X map, similar, in overall size to what we have here, but instead of 100 some fields, I think there's 39 fields on that map. So, that gives you an idea, and that map is relatively covered with fields, just as this one or any other farming simulator map is. So, that gives you some idea of we're fields are 4 times the size in essence. Oops, I didn't turn off the engine, because otherwise I think I can't disconnect the PTO. It told me the PTO was connected, but I'm pretty sure if I went ahead and hit the button to disconnect the PTO, the next thing would have been, please stop the engine. Okay. So, old guy lost his train of thought again. But basically, it's just not coming back. Oh, things I don't like and things that bring me concern on the map. So, the field size is there. And I've been upfront with folks, and again, some people looked at the map and some people didn't. But, if we go back to, hilly Seneca here, and while, some of these fields around the edge aren't purchasable. Again, 75, 76, 138. They've come up here, but I've not seen these and these, and I think even these come up. So we don't necessarily have 130, but we probably have 100, 120. Because again, obviously, I'm assuming 132, 73, and 74 I've definitely seen come up. So it's these maybe 24 at most around the edge. So maybe we have 100. But either way, going from 100 to, in essence, 40, like the starting farm field on Shellbrook, which is kind of in this same type of space that I'm at here, but may not be where I want to be, because who knows where the custom silo will be, and I may decide, just like I did here, hey, I really want to be close to the custom silo so that I can deliver things quickly and get there. That field is, I think, like 150 acres, where my largest field is 30 acres here. So I'd be looking at a field 5 times the size, and what in essence is how much I have across all 7 fields here. So I'd be going back to a farm that is the same size field-wise or arable acre-wise, but I'd be doing it on 1 field, maybe 2 fields. And because of that, I don't anticipate getting more than 1 field. But, I think even 1 field's going to be 60 or 70 acres. I think there are a couple smaller ones than that, but literally just a couple, and I don't know that I want to go. They may be in a place that I'm like, yeah, I don't want to do that, and I'd rather have this field. So, all that will be yet to be determined as we start going through the process of how we transition. The other things I don't know are, just exactly how the process works, and how much time it will take. So we continue to work the farm here, and, as things go along, we'll share that journey so that those just trying to also get a feel for FSN or understand how things work will now get to experience what a map swap looks like as a farm manager on FSN, because and a mayor to some degree, because I'm obviously probably going to have some involvement that a farm manager normally wouldn't, because I'll be probably talking with the ops staff more directly, and therefore have some information that maybe farm managers wouldn't necessarily know until their mayor had shared it with them. So, that's the plan, but my expectation is that we'll absolutely be able to get this year done on the farm, which is good, because I need to go check, but I'm almost positive I've got wheat still in my silo that I need to sell, so it would be kind of foolish of me to have some crops that just got tossed away, because I know we're not going to get any kind of credit that way, or at least 99% sure. Similarly to, my concern about the supply silos. So, I had filled those a few years ago. We had an episode on that. And at that point, it was like, yeah, I go through these in 2 to 3 in-game years, so, no biggie, even though we know we're potentially moving. We'll go ahead and spend this money. And we went from whatever it was, 1.2 million down to what we've got now. So we've got, $500,000 of supplies in those silos. I don't think I get credit for that. And since I slowed down, and I've only been doing a field a year, I haven't gone through things that quickly. So there's a good amount of supply still left in those silos. And it'll be what it'll be. But that's the stuff that I'm going to learn. Maybe I'll be pleasantly surprised, and it'll be like, yeah, we'll give you money back for those, because obviously I think the prices for those, again, to keep things level in FSN are the same from server to server. And so, it would be easy enough for them to say, well, fertilizer is $1.18 a liter, and you've got X number of liters, so, here you go. But not sure how that goes. And once again, do we sell our own equipment? Do we, do something else? Can we auction it? Can we auction it? Can we do things like that? And that's something I've also never done. I've never put a piece of my equipment up for auction. If I've sold it, I've just sold it in-game and kept it simple, because it's not like I've been, hey, I need extra money, and I don't know that an auction gets you extra money. But anyway, we'll get to use this corn header, which I've never used on the series. So I'm sure some of you have been like, why do you even have it? It just sits here, and you've bumped into it and moved it around. Well, I have it because once in a while it gives me the option to plant these crops. And where I've gotten to is I want to be able to do everything on this farm. It's from a crop standpoint. So over time I bought equipment, and we'll kind of do that same build-up, I'm sure, on Shellbrook, but that remains to be seen. So anyway, we'll have other episodes to continue talking, so I'm going to end this one now. But, hopefully that gets you up to speed, and hopefully I haven't done anything stupid and lost this video too, but I'm pretty comfortable we're good. And in that case, I will be seeing you next time, and you've been caught up pretty well on where things stand and where we're headed. So, hope you continue to come along on the journey. Would love to have you along and continue to be involved. And as always, please subscribe. If you've enjoyed the episodes, please like them so we can expand the community. And I will see you next time.